So I'm Todd Coleman, Creative Director.
And I'm Thomas Blair, the Design Director.
And welcome to our first live stream about Crowfall Live, about the launched project, the product that is actually out in the market now and for sale, no longer in beta. Whew, do you remember back when we were in beta? Ooh, that seems like forever ago.
Yeah, it has been a long, crazy road to get here, but we crossed the finish line. It is the finish line for the pre-production / production of the launch product. Now we start the path forward when we have a bigger audience and see what all of you guys want.
Oh, for sure. And keep in mind, right, like we have a lot of game. Like clearly there's a ton of game there. But think about every other MMO that you've played and where it was at launch versus where it was a couple years later, right? As you played it live over time, it really is just the beginning. Like we've got so many cool things that we want to add to the game, some ideas that we didn't quite get to, and a whole bunch that we had thought of during the course of development and just were like, well, we'll get to that after launch. And we're now to the point where we can start thinking about that stuff and actively looking at it once we get our legs under us, which, you know, knock on wood, we're starting to get pretty close to that point. We've had players that jumped into the Kickstarter who started playing day one and basically have been with us every single, like weekly or monthly. They've been with us the entire time. So from an outsider looking in, effectively, they have lived through an entire MMO development process, an entire development cycle for an MMO. And players don't normally see that, right? Normally, you guys don't even see the game until it hits beta, and that's usually pretty late stage, right? We were testing early. We decided as part of our project focus, we were going to get people in and testing core combat day one, which is good because we made so many changes based on player feedback that if we'd waited till the end, we wouldn't have had time to make all those changes. Right. But it is really remarkable, I think, that we have, you know, we've kind of dragged a big mass of players along with us to where now they have experience as if they've gone through a development process, much like being a developer, right? Like they've literally been almost an extension of the QA / design team because we take so much feedback and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting and fascinating way to build one of these. But I hope that, you know, if I've had people tell me, you know, hey, I feel like I've already gotten my money's back just from the original Kickstarter just by going through this process. And now I get a cool game at the end of it as well. But I'm really happy that you guys were able to come along on that journey. And I want to thank those of you, which is, you know, it's not the giant mass of people. We have 75 or something like that, 1,000 backers before we got to launch. Oh, I should get that actual number. I should get the number of what the actual number of backers was leading into launch. But there was a core following that was with us the entire time. So I thank you to you guys know who you are. Thank you to you specifically for being willing to hang with us and give us your feedback and play the game and be a part of making this game as well. I want to give you guys in particular, thank you. Every MMO, no matter how flawless they look on the outside, there is a tremendous amount of hustling going on the backside because you just by definition, you see a scale of players that you've never seen before. And so you have all these things in place to handle that scale so your service can grow with the number of players that come in. But you've never really tested it. You can test it with scripting, you can test it with bots, but you can't test it with real players because you don't have the real players until they show up. So it's very nerve-wracking, right? Trying to hoping that you did that correctly so that the scale works and that it all holds. So the duck on the water is right from the top, it looks smooth and the duck is serene and they're just trucking along. But underwater, those little legs are just furiously kicking to make everything go. That's how an MMO launch feels. So we have furious kicking going on, but so far so good. My knock on wood, I'll do it again because so far so good. I know that we will hit additional issues through the course of the day. We have not hit our peak yet. We'll have multiple waves. This evening will likely be the biggest peak, and then we'll see how that goes as the issues pop up. The real question is, can we fix them on the back end in a way that you guys can keep playing? So that's the goal.
I'd love to speak volumes about everybody on the development side, making this all happen over the course of 6 years. There has been a lot of effort. Just imagine like doing anything for 6 years it's an immense amount of work that went into this project. We've literally moved mountains of pebbles with a teaspoon at a time getting it all from pile A to pile B to get all this work accomplished. And it's amazing to see you guys playing this morning and it's not all on fire, right? That's just, it's just so amazing when I think back to where we've come. I think I watched a Zybeck video of Hunger Dome 1, and it was actually a streamer was watching that, and they tabbed back over to Crowfall right now, and it was like night and day difference. Just the amount of things that a lot of you guys just don't even notice, but they're just little UI elements doing this and doing that, and it just feels like a complete game. And it's really awesome to be at that stage. And to the team that built it, kudos to everybody. For many of them, this is their first launched major title. For some of the vets, it's yet another big game to launch. As Todd said this morning, he's done this 4 times.
I've only done 4. I've been doing this for a couple decades, right? I mean, Shadowbane was one of the first MMOs to come out, and I was a kid at the time. I've only done 4. That's how long these games take. They just take a giant amount of work, even for smaller ones, it's funny to call it a smaller game, right? Because it's still an MMO. But compared to the big guys that are out there, it is a relatively smaller one. Still just a mountain of effort. Still a massive game. And our game, of course, is more complicated because it's not a standard design model that we just said, okay, well, we're just going to copy WoW, or we're going to copy whatever other game, and whatever design decisions they made that we know work, we'll just do those again. We decided to take a path that was very much not traveled and go exploring. And the downside of that is it takes you longer because you make mistakes. And then when you guys tell us, hey, I really don't like this, and you're all in agreement, then okay, I guess we need to change that. So we go and we fix it. That takes more time. But the cool thing about it is we can look back now and be proud of the fact that we didn't just copy another game. We went out of our way to make something really unique. I mean, we wanted a connected universe where players were not locked to a world. Every world could have its own rules, and the world could have different terrain and had different locations. And it was more about player agency, and the players could create empires and topple empires and form alliances and conquer those worlds. We even wanted servers that would shut down, so they had a discrete like list of winners and losers, and then the characters could then go back to the main universe and continue playing and sign up for the next world. Everything I described is actually the game that we built. Like, we built the game. Yes, we made changes along the way. We added things and we've subtracted things and stuff like that. But at the core, the vision that we pitched is the game that we built. And that's something I'm very proud of. I mean, at the end of the day, we did what we set out to do. So from wherever it goes from here, now it actually will be up to you guys where it goes, much more than before. Because we're going to respond to player feedback, and we're going to watch what you do and what you like, and we'll do more of what you like. It from this point, live is a whole different beast than development. You guys will be seeing a lot more Gordon, for example, though he's not here right at this moment. You'll be seeing a lot more of Gordon because Gordon is really a creature of live service, right? And I'm more a creature of development. So that's a natural transition. I think that'll happen also with the game, is as we move into more of a live cadence, it'll start to feel a little different. So anyway, it's an exciting time. I'm only slightly exhausted, but I'm delighted to finally be here.
Yeah, and I can think back to our morning stand-up, the morning of Kickstarter, right? And I was sick as a dog, and I always like to tell, like, one of the things you always preach back in those days before COVID was, hey, if you're sick, don't come into work. And I came into work sick as a dog because there was no way I was missing the Kickstarter.
Yeah, because you never listened to me anyway.
And that was a once-in-a-career opportunity, and now being able to bookend it with launch, having gone from that. I remember that stand-up, and we did stand-up, and the dollar value had gone up like 20 grand in the amount of time that it took us to go around the room and do our morning stand-up back when we were a very small team, right? And then being able to bookend it on this side with the actual finished product is just, it's amazing. And it'll probably something I won't experience again because nobody's making big Kickstarter MMOs anymore because they don't quite have a good record. And I'm really proud to say that I think we've slid one of those chips to the side of victory for making it through the entire process of development and making it live. So that's just an awesome spot to be. And for everyone who joined us on that adventure, thanks. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I think you nailed it on the head. It is fun looking back now at the crazy process. So in addition to MMO development, which is always normally hard, we would get together as a group on a kind of bi-weekly basis or at least once a month basis and just talk about what Blair and I called the show, which is okay. Well, we've got all these people who are watching our development process, so what are we going to do to keep them informed? Like there was we definitely from the very beginning decided we did not want to be the kind of company that was like, hey, thanks for the Kickstarter funds, we'll see you later, and just go quiet. We never wanted to do that. We wanted to have a constant cadence of communication. So we would literally sit down like, with Val and Dave and Melissa, like everybody would get in a room and we would put a big calendar, one of those calendars, the rollout kind of laminated calendars on the conference room table, and we would get sticky notes and we would put sticky notes on the days going like, and okay, on Thursday, Blair is going to talk about how he sets up power triggers. Like it's like inside baseball, right? It's like how the sausage is made, to slam two completely different analogies together. But we thought, okay, well, some number of our players will find that interesting and they'll be into that. And so we were constantly doing the show, which it was interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot out of it. It definitely was a lot of work, but I wouldn't change it now. I think it was an interesting and kind of necessary ingredient to how this game in particular was made. Every game is different. Every MMO is different, but this one is more different than most. I've never been through anything like this before.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
pretty cool.
All right, well, moving on. Let's play our launch trailer.
Oh yeah. Launch trailer. This is pretty cool. So yeah, so shout out to Ryan and Emily, who spent a lot of time setting all this up in game. Let's go ahead and show it.
We are crows, eternal warriors chosen by the gods. It is for them we fight, always one step ahead of the force devouring our universe. This world will die, consumed by the hunger. But we will move on to the next. Other crows challenge us for our glory, our wealth, our power. There are many paths to victory. Our choices determine the fate of our kingdom. Through our alliances, we have all the strength we need to defend all that we have conquered. They may breach our walls, but they will not capture this castle. I will defend it to the end of this life, and with every life after.
So again, thanks to the marketing team for putting that together. That's very, very cool. So Blair, what's next on our list?
We get asked about lore, the backstory of Crowfall. We want to share with everyone and the new community members who are curious how this world started. Why are we crows? What is your version of the backstory of the game?
The core of the idea behind the game kind of came from an idea of having active gods in the universe, right? So I'm a big mythology fan. I kind of always have been. So I thought it would be really fun to put together a pantheon of gods with the obvious heavy influence from Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, and a couple of the more esoteric. But one of the core elements of mythology, right, is the idea of the Earth Mother, the goddess Earth Mother. In fact, what we did is we did a Trinity goddess out of it because I thought that would be very cool. So you've got the maid, the mother, and the crone. And one of the ideas that I thought was really compelling was, what would happen if a god could die, and specifically in the pantheon, if the Earth Mother were to die. Like that idea was first of all, it's incredibly dark, but second to that, I thought it was just a cool idea that like what would happen to a world that was left over if the Earth Mother, the fountain of life, was killed. And I thought that was just a really compelling idea. So it kind of started. The idea started with I guess two concepts. One was, let's cause this cataclysmic event to happen where the Earth Mother, one of the gods, is killed for reasons that are a little unknown. And then number two, let's recognize that we're not writing a television show or a movie here, right? We're not trying to, this is not a novel where the goal is for me to construct a story and then story tell to you and you leave it going, oh my God, that was really, really cool. I mean, while I would love to do that in another medium, in this medium, in an MMO, the intent of Crowfall is for the players to write the stories. Like, it's not my story, it's your story. So everything that we did in constructing the fiction of Crowfall was created with the idea of player agency. That our goal was not to tell a complete story. Our goal was to create world building, a foundation for players to be able to tell their own stories. So you can tell this in the way that we constructed the narrative. Not only do we have the pantheon, but we also have little snippets, like little short stories related to all the races and the classes and all the ones that you did, the small piece, little kind of tidbits that you threw in for all the disciplines. We kind of put the narrative together like a patchwork quilt, and we made them contradictory. So if you read what the Stoneborn, the dwarves, think about the way the universe was constructed and how it's going to end, and then you go and you read what the elves think about the creation story of the universe and the role of the gods, they don't agree. Like, there was something very natural and organic about the idea of building these short stories in a way that they are discordant. And that conflict built into the narrative, we hoped would give players jump off points to start to craft their own stories and to give them natural reasons, role-playing reasons, to have conflict with other players. So it was kind of those two ideas. One was, I've got a really interesting idea for what I think would be a cool backstory. Let's have a dying world that is shattered. Some of it very resonant with Shadowbane, my original game, but a kind of a new take on that. But then secondarily, having it be set up to where the players could really take that story and run with it. And there is no resolution, right? Like, I didn't set out to say, and here is the answer. Here's what's right and here's what's wrong relating to the death of Gaia. Instead, we left it open for players to interpret and argue about and debate. Your actions and your decisions and your alliances and your betrayals, that will become the history of this universe, which is very, very cool. So the narrative was written with that in mind.
And I think to reinforce some of that, we're making their own stories. There will be mechanics that we introduce, like when we do dregs campaigns and we restrict it to specific races, right? That will be something that you
classes, right? For sure.
Right. But by saying that the elves versus the Stoneborn, that just saying that, we're going to automatically cut out a swath of classes that can't be played, right? So there's definitely going to be a little bit of us moving the board around so you can create those stories, so it's not static. And of course, just the nature of our campaigns, since every world is different, the stories will be different. Great. Why don't we roll into the animatic video?
Once, we were like children, foolish but happy. That was before we learned that our gods could die. Gaia, the Earth Mother, wellspring of life. We found her broken and bleeding, and with her last breath, our world was shattered. We call it the hunger, for that is what it does. It consumes. Then came the wars, brutal, desperate, and endless. When the gods are angry, mortals pay the price. Some of us pay it more than once. My lord's offer was simple. Eternal life for eternal service. I am immortal, chosen by the gods to pick over the bones of this dying world, to bring them glory, wealth, and power. I am not alone. There are others. We do not love them, but we serve them. For they are our gods. We are their crows.
Okay, so we have some celebratory wishes from the gods, and I'm going to share those with you. Archon, Lord of the Sun, says, sharpen your sword and take up your shield, my crow. The time for vengeance is finally upon us. We shall not falter. Cybele, the maiden goddess, says, songs of celebration have too long gone silent in this universe. The hunger consumes us all, but it cannot consume our triumphs. Join me, Crow, and let us bring revelry back to these worlds.
By the way, something I want to point out, I had somebody ask me at one point, like, okay, well, among your gods, like, who's the good guy? And I was like, God, they're all terrible in their own way. Like, Cybele sounds nice, right? But at the end of the day, she's completely flighty and will lose interest in you almost instantly and go off and do like none of them are actually good. I guess Maeve might be the best of them, the goddess of war. And that's not a great place to start, right? Anyway, keep going.
All right, let's
So
go.
I haven't heard these actually, so this would probably be all Jack would be my guess.
Yep. Cain, the wretched god. The universe is lost. Its destruction at the hands of the hunger is inevitable. How will you define your destiny in the fleeting moments of a doomed plane? All right, Malachi, Lord of Shadows. Eternal life for eternal service. It is not such a large price to pay, is it? You will face eternity one way or another after all.
Malachi might be my favorite. He's just so creepy.
Yeah.
The idea of not having a mouth because the Allfather, I think the Allfather got pissed at him and took it because he was being mouthy, and so instead he basically hovers over people in their sleep and will dangle a spider down into their ear and it burrows in their brain, and then now he can whisper into the back of their head until they go mad. He's a creepy he's a creepy guy.
Yeah, he was also one of our kind of bedrock gods because I think we developed him the most.
He was one of the first. Yeah.
Right. Him and Hero until we demoted Hero to we kicked him out of.
Well, the Hero effectively became a demigod. He's a Hercules type character. Right. So Odysseus, Hercules. He's still very impressive. We decided that we'd be better as a demigod.
And then we're going to go and show the rewards for the July launch rewards for all backers. So everybody gets these guys. This is the Crow Spirit Sigil and Totem. They're created to reflect the shape of the legendary Spirit Crow. Equipping these blessed item connects you with the legendary Crow and grants you a 2% damage modifier in honor of Hero. So let's show those. This is a chest that goes in what we call the badge slot for one of them, and the other one goes into one of the waist accessory slots, the one in the front on the right thigh. They look really cool. For those of you who have been around a long time and collected a lot of these accessory items, they look pretty sweet. There will be opportunities to get them again because we like to give you stuff because, hey, stuff is cool. And it really makes your character kind of stand out. You'll notice a lot of the super veterans have some of the old Decapathon Crow skulls or the silver skull. It looks pretty badass.
And some of them are exclusive, so not all of them will be available again. That's just kind of the nature of it. That's the way it works.
But that's kind of how we differentiate our characters in Crowfall for those just showing up is we give you a lot of customization in the accessory slots, and we've made a lot of those things.
Until we get Dine, which is on the roadmap.
All right, for our new players, the game guides are going live every week. We've got great information on all aspects of the game, and they can be found here in the news section of crowfall.com/news/articles. I'm sure we'll have a link up there, and we will definitely have a way to direct you from the website. Cool. All right. And moving forward for our Crows Rewards program. So if you're a VIP member, our July VIP reward is the Griffin mount. So if you're a VIP by July 31st, receive this month's VIP reward. We tend to give these out every month for VIPs.
Hence the name, VIP monthly rewards.
Yep. Just want to be clear on that point. As Crows rise to join the battle fighting the gods, the ancient griffin shall be their steed. Though grounded in these worlds, that path is guided by the gods. And we've got the picture of the griffin mount. Ooh, and an assassin sigil. The assassin sigil is a mark of honor. Those who place the sigil on their chest say they can feel the presence of the wind. Wear this sigil and know the unseen ones watch over you as you wander the dying worlds, walk in the wind. That's actually a pretty cool looking badge. I hadn't seen that one yet. All righty. And it looks like I've got an update on the launch party dinner studio tour happy hour. We still have no dates yet. We're still pending behind all the COVID-19 restrictions. As those COVID-19 restrictions lift, we'll move forward with final details. We are tentatively targeting for September, October, and we will give you plenty of advance notice. All right. And now we go into Todd's wrap up.
Oh, all right. So this is a big day. Obviously, I want to say thank you to everybody who got here. I'm nervous. I don't know what's happened in the last 37 minutes that I'm going to have to go in and look at. So I'll get to that in a minute. But certainly I want to thank everybody for sticking with us as long as you have. I'm sorry that it took as long as it did, but I'm excited that we finally got here. And I do want to thank you for your patience and your support. Those of you who are just joining us, I hope that you enjoy the game that we built for you. It is very different than anything else out there. One thing that did come up, the press release, I believe, has already gone out. Is that accurate? Case,
Yeah.
you know if the press release went out. One thing that we did decide to do is, Crowfall, let me back up a second. Crowfall is a very complex game, right? That's not a bad thing, right? Complexity means depth, which hopefully means that you guys will find a lot more replayability because it's not your standard game where you kind of play through the quest content and then you're done. Instead, it's about players interacting with other players and every campaign being different. So to that end, we spent a significant chunk of time over the last 6 months redoing the new player experience so that we can weave you through every system in the game. Because what we found is dumping people right into the PvP experience at the end game with other players who've been playing it for years was not good. Like, it's deep into the ocean with the sharks and you've never even learned to swim, and that was bad. So we went ahead and put one in now. It still only takes a few hours to get through, but it does a great job, or a much better job, of threading you through all those systems and trying to explain how the game works. We have, though, had people who are like, yes, I get it, you put that in, but you're still delaying me from what I want to do, which is going straight to the end game. And I'm the kind of player that I don't care if I'm going to get eaten a few times by the sharks. That's how I learn best. Fair point. We recognize there are some people that are like that. So we went ahead and added to everybody who's bought the game, to every package, whether it was Kickstarter or you're just buying it today or tomorrow, we added a single-use tome that you can use to jumpstart a character straight past the newbie experience. You can go straight past all of that and have a near max level character that you can get in, go right into the PvP area, and you can start. Join a guild is my only comment. If you're gonna do it, that's fine. First of all, I'm warning you that it may not be the best idea. You really probably should run through the new player experience. But if you don't want to, and I can't convince you to do it, then that's fine. We're going to give you an ability to sidestep it. VIPs can do it as much as they want. You can jump right over the tutorial, but everybody gets to do it at least once. And you can also buy these for gold, by the way, if you decide that you don't want to run through a second or a third or 20th character. These same tomes are available in the store for gold. But it gives you a way to jump past all that, and we're going to give everybody one for free. So if you just have a hard set, stubborn streak of, I do not want to go through the experience and learn that way, put me in the game, coach. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and do that for you as well, because ultimately we want you guys to be happy. So there you go. It was mentioned in the press release, but I wanted to make sure we mentioned it here as well. But internally we call that the Level Me Elmo tome, by the way. So if you ever hear me refer to it as the Elmo tome, now you know why. So
yeah, why do we call this an Elmo? I don't know. Todd just called it that once.
It's like hippos, right?
It's stuck.
That the UI that you use to build a building, where you feed materials and it grows the building, or feed the war table and it grows the walls, we call that a hippo. And I believe the joke there was it was named after hungry hippos, because they were supposed to constantly be a way for people to dump their resources.
Yeah, I mentioned hungry hippo because that was a game that was around when I was a kid, and everyone in the room looked at me and was like, "What the hell is a hungry hippo?" Yeah. Hallis is like, why didn't you mention hammer pants too, right, while you were doing that? Because I'm sure everyone knows what those are. So
they probably do. Those have, I think, aged better than hungry hippos. Not in terms of people wearing them, but in terms of people remembering them. So, all right. Well, there you go. Level Me Elmo tome. Now you guys know. You're now in the know on another development term.
Yes, and again, as Todd said, your best experience will be if you can join a guild. So make as many efforts as you can. If you are an older guild looking for new people, now's a great time, as I'm sure you all know. Let's help the new people joining the community, and because it will make for a better game long term.
Yeah, and there's a HUD in the game now that you can bring up and say search for a guild, and it has a bunch of guilds that have open enrollment, meaning they'll just let anybody come in as a new pledge or however they want to handle it. We really have very little to do with internal guild management. If you have a guild and you want to be included on that list, go to the website. There's a button that you can click that is an open your guild up for open enrollment button, and you click it, and you'll start to get served up as a guild that people can join.
That's
So, yes. And this is your third-person action game, PvP game, right? So if we succeed, the market succeeds, and there may be more in the future, right? So that's always something important to bring up too, which is our success will breed further games like this. So,
well, and not just games like this. It's risk taking, right? It's about risk taking in the space. The reason that every company out there started making WoW clones is because that felt like to studio executives the cheapest way to try and the least risky way to try and replicate some portion of World of Warcraft success. So if you like innovation, support, and if not us, then pick other indie developers, right? But pick companies that are willing to take risks and support them. Support them because risk leads to other people going, hey, look, there's a successful path over there. I'm willing to go take a risk too. So I'm really delighted that we were able to have a chance to do that. I want to thank everybody again. I mean, I'll say it forever, but I want to thank you guys for giving us a chance to make this game and for being willing to let us take a risk.
Yep, the risky stuff is Gordon always thought we were taking too much risk. Like every little knob that we turned a little bit different from the mainstream means you're taking on more risk, and that it's riskier. I mean, it's built into the phrase. So
yeah. I just get a note that the Jumpstart, the Level Me Elmo Jumpstart tome, the entitlement has not been added to accounts yet. It'll be in very soon, but it will be in. It is the pedestals in the game. The vendor has it in the game, but the entitlement has not been actually added to people's accounts. And it is on the list. It's just on the list. It's not the top on the list. We've got a couple things we need to do for scalability that we're working on in the background, but it'll be coming very soon. So if you don't see it, don't freak out.
And
It'll eventually, when it shows up, it'll show up when you log into the lobby. You'll see it in your inbox as another thing you can redeem. Put it in your account bank, and you can put it on whatever character you want. Just take it out of the World Bank, right-click it. It'll consume it, and it'll bump you up to 25th level.
There you go.
I'll post in our Discord when it's live, so they know.
Cool. Sounds great.
Thank you, Tix. And we're gonna raid Dilbo. So
That's
thanks
great.
for coming by. And we're gonna hop over to Dilbo's stream.
All right, guys. Thank you for attending our.
Thank you.
I was gonna say last pre-launch dev Q&A, but actually that's not it.
This is our first live.
This is our first live development Q&A, which is pretty cool. All right. Thanks again, guys, and we will see you in game for real this time.
See you in
Have
game,
fun, everybody.
guys.
All right.
Bye.